Hello and welcome to Creator Weekly Live for December 10th, 2023. I'm Picky Kay, and today there are updates for YouTube, for bloggers, and of course, new news in the generative AI front. So, to get started, I want to first talk about the YouTube help community. Give me just a moment to enable. Alrighty. This week, the official English YouTube help community reopened. It's been closed for a number of months to try to improve the way it works. It's finally open again. So if you are having trouble with YouTube and you don't have access to direct creator support. I'm having so much trouble talking this morning. Let me try again. If you are having trouble with YouTube and you don't have access to direct creator support, you can now post a question in the official YouTube help community and get a YouTube product expert like me to answer your question. The alternative is to go on X, Twitter, and tweet at Team YouTube, which is not necessarily the ideal situation. I did want to point out, though, that with this relaunch, there are a number of best practices that YouTube is asking that you follow when you're posting. And I recommend you read this first. Do a search first. Look at the featured post and trending topics. When you create a new thread, you should be sure to include all the information about your question, because a lot of times people just post something like help, and then that's really hard to answer. So that is what I wanted to start you out with. I want to say hello to Jolyn and Bridget in the live chat this morning. If you are here, please drop into the chat and say hello, say where you're watching from this morning, and let me know what you think about this week's updates. The big news from YouTube and Google this week is that
here is some information about
this
week. Former Clinton White House staff.
Okay, Google, stop. All right, so I have a Google Home Mini. I don't know if you could hear that. Obviously, I need to make sure I don't say the trigger words. Oh, and welcome to Tanya from London. So great to see an international audience here. I love it. So back to what I was talking about today. YouTube and Google announced that the migration from Google Podcasts to YouTube Music is happening. Now, it's starting in the US, and for people in the US, they say that Google Podcasts may be shut down by April. What this means is that you need to decide what you're going to do with your podcasts. You can either migrate your podcasts directly from Google Podcasts to YouTube Music, or you can export all your podcasts in an OPML file. I think that's importable into most other podcast listening platforms. So that's something to do. The other thing that they announced is that in YouTube Music, you can add podcasts that are not on YouTube by adding the RSS link. So most podcasts offer a link for the feed for the podcast. You can now add those to YouTube Music. Podcasts can also be listened to offline, even if you don't have a YouTube Premium subscription. So they are trying to make YouTube Music a good podcast listening platform. Again, if you're in the US, you should be able to start this migration process. Other countries will be coming soon. And let's see. The other news from YouTube is that they are doing an experiment. I believe it's an experiment and not a full rollout. But actually, it was an experiment, and now it's a rollout of being able to pause comments on your YouTube videos. What does that mean exactly? You can see in the Help Center article, it says when you choose the pause option, you'll keep your existing comments, but you won't receive any more comments on that video until you turn the comments back on. This is new because previously you could have comments on and then you would have to moderate the comments, or you could turn comments off, which meant no comments, but it also made any existing comments disappear. This is sort of in between those two. You say you want to pause. People can still read the comments that have already been posted, but then no more comments can be posted. And they say you might want to choose this option. For example, if you get a sudden increase in comments and you want to be able to review them without new comments coming in. So that's a tool to help you moderate discussions on your videos. And hopefully this will make it easier to prevent spam and spammers and so forth. So those are the main YouTube updates. I'm going to shift now to Google's major update this week, which is, ta-da, Gemini, their new AI model. And this is a big deal. It's supposed to compete with GPT-4. They clearly wanted to announce this before the end of the year. And it comes in 3 different levels. You can have Gemini Nano, which will run on devices. And this is going to be on the Pixel 8, I think, to start. The idea is you don't need to go to Google's cloud to process the AI. You can do it right on your device, but it means it's a little less capable. Then there's Gemini Pro, which is the higher level. And there's Gemini Ultra, which is the highest level. And my impression is that actually isn't available yet. They're still testing it, but that should come next year. And I think one of the things that's worth looking at is this article from Google developers about how it was made. Here's the thing. Google launched a promo video that's really amazing. It shows someone manipulating things and writing things, and then on the other side it says, oh, here's Gemini responding to those things. It looks like it can detect what objects are. It can suggest games. It can suggest code. It's really incredible. The problem is this demo video was apparently heavily edited. In retrospect, that's really not surprising at all, because if you've used large language models, there's always a delay time. You enter a prompt, and then you have to wait for it to come back, and maybe you need to modify your prompt a little bit. So what Google released was basically a highlight reel, and all of the prompting details are not really that obvious. A lot of news has said that was deceptive. One even said, oh, this is fake. And it's not exactly fake, because this is real response to prompts. They just didn't show the entire prompting process and the time it took for the response in this promo video. So I'm going to suggest, if you're interested in this, go to this article from Google for Developers, which showed how the video was made, and it tells you the exact prompts that were used. So, for example, they showed Gemini a picture of a hand, and they said, "Tell me what you see." And Gemini said, "I see a person's right hand. The hand is open with the fingers spread apart, and it can detect other hand configurations." And then they said, "Okay, look at these 3 hand pictures. What do you think I'm doing?" And they gave a hint. It's a game. And they said, "Oh, it's rock, paper, scissors." That's pretty cool. And then they asked Gemini about that. And they talked about using Gemini for logic and spatial reasoning. So you can show pictures like of the solar system and say, are these in the right order? Ask about engineering. Lots of image recognition. It understands magic tricks. It's really actually pretty incredible, but it's not quite as incredible as the demo video would have you believe. I'm looking forward to playing with it, and that's something that you can try in Google Bard. So let me So Google Bard is getting upgraded with Gemini. You can try that at bard.google.com. It's supposed to improve the processor. So if you've been playing with Bard, this may be a lot better. You can also try the new Gemini in NotebookLM. Now, this is an experimental tool from Google. I believe it's available in the US right now, and it should hopefully expand further. The idea is that this is sort of your own personal AI. You can create a notebook, you upload your own documents. So if you are doing a science research project, you could upload the scientific research articles and maybe some notes and so forth. And then NotebookLM can summarize what you have and put it together and make suggestions for questions to ask and so forth. So it's a much more personalized AI for your projects. I can definitely envision this being incorporated into other Google projects at some point if it works. So you can check that out at notebooklm.google.com, and that should have Gemini as well, I believe. And then finally, the Pixel 8 Pro is also running Gemini Nano. So this runs on the device, and it's part of the Pixel feature drop in December. Gemini Nano is doing 2 specific things. The first is if you use the Recorder app on the Pixel 8 Pro. Recorder is a really cool app for Android, may just be for Pixel devices, I'm not sure. It will live record whatever you're talking to and then transcribe it. And it transcribes accurately in my experience, and it can separate different speakers and so forth. Gemini Nano is going to let you get a summary, even if you don't have an internet connection. And it's also integrated in Smart Reply in Gboard. This is a developer preview right now, available for WhatsApp, only, again, making smart replies smarter. So that's the kind of thing that AIs are good at. There are several other updates on the Pixel that are not Gemini, but one I wanted to point out that's very cool is the ability to use your Pixel phone as a webcam. And what you do is connect your phone to your computer, your laptop, your desktop computer, and I think it even says any other device except for another phone. And then when you are live streaming, you're in a video call, you can use that phone as if it's a camera. And the nice thing about that is most Pixel cameras are much better quality than other webcams. I tried this out with my Pixel phone. It seems to work. The problem is that if I jiggle the cable at all, I lose the connection. So I think maybe that's a cable problem and not a feature problem, but I'm experimenting with it and it's kind of exciting. You know, that means you don't need the webcam attached to your laptop or computer. You can set it up on a tripod or anywhere. You could have it pointing at anything you wanted. So that's a really cool feature. And I know iPhones have this already. So it's not unique to Android, but finally we have it. So while we're talking about AI, I also wanted to mention that Meta has released a new AI tool. It's called imagine.meta.com. Again, it's a text to image editor. It requires a Meta account. As I discovered when I tried to play with this, that's not a Facebook account. It's not an Instagram account. It is specifically a Meta account, which is good. You can have one separate from Facebook and Instagram, but I wasn't ready to migrate my Facebook and Instagram accounts to a Meta account. So I haven't actually tried this yet, but if you want to give it a try, it's imagine.meta.com. Meta is also integrating AI into more of its features, as you'd expect. So in the new year, expect to see more AI features. One slight controversy, and I'm not actually sure how controversial this is, but Ars Technica has pointed out that Meta's new AI image generator was trained on public Instagram and Facebook photos. So, you know, if you posted any photos on Instagram or Facebook, your images may have been used for training. Is this a good thing? Probably not. Is it the worst thing? Probably not either. We'll see what this actually does. From what I have read, this new image generator is especially good at generating images of people, which is not that surprising if it was trained on Instagram and Facebook photos, which are probably heavily slanted towards having photos of people in them. And back on the Meta front, this was a big launch this week. Their take on hashtags is basically a linked tag. It can be multiple words. It can have an emoji in it. It doesn't have to have the hash symbol. So it doesn't look like a hashtag, but it is linked. So one of the kind of fun things on Threads this week is that people were tagging their posts with tech threads. These are all introductions from tech people who are on the platform. You can see the tech threads feed. And it's kind of fun as a way to see specific posts and categories, just like hashtags are. So we'll see how that works. The other thing I was going to mention is that there are signs that Threads is going to launch in Europe probably next week. If you're on Instagram, you can do a search for, I think the word is time, And you'll see like there's a little countdown to how long it will be until you can launch Threads. So I think Threads is really going to be a fierce competitor to X, Twitter, in part because it's got Meta's money behind it. And I have noticed a lot of journalists and tech folks are on Threads rather than on Blue Sky or Mastodon. So we'll see how it all shakes out in the new year. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit to talk about some updates for blogging and webmasters. The first is if you are embedding videos on your web pages, so you have a blog, you have web pages, Google says that the Google search results are being updated. So they really want to focus on web pages that have the video as the main part of the content in that article. So if the blog post you have has a video embedded and it's just, a minor part of the content, it's not above the fold, as they say, it may not show up as a video in the search results. And Google gives some examples of page types where the video is supplementary to the text content and not the primary focus. So they talk about blog posts where the video is complementary to the text, a product details page with a complementary video, a video category page that has multiple videos of equal prominence. And you hopefully have Google Search Console set up for your website or blog. You can check the reports there about how videos from your site are indexed. The other update I wanted to mention briefly is that if you have a legacy Blogger account, now is the time to migrate it to Google. Originally, the deadline for doing that was 2012, which was more than a decade ago, but at the time, they didn't actually enforce the deadline. So there are still legacy blogs out there. You may have a legacy blog if you have not signed into your Blogger account since 2007. So this is probably a relatively small number of blogs that people are still interested in keeping. But if that is you, you need to go to Blogger's legacy migration page and migrate the blog to Google account. One of the things that we've seen is that people are getting email notifications that they need to do this. And the email they get says, you haven't signed in since before 2007, but there's no blog attached. That may be, you are following blogs in that account. You maybe left comments. If there's no blog you want to keep, or you don't want to go back to that content, you don't need to migrate it, but otherwise you do. If you start on this legacy migration page and click the option for trying to find your password, there is a process to try and get your password recovered if you don't remember. As far as I can tell, you do have to remember the username for the account, which may or may not be an email address. It's tough. And if you haven't signed in since before 2007, that may be really hard to do. But now is the time to do that. I also wanted to give a quick mention to the state of the word. That's the WordPress annual update. It's from a live in-person conference, I believe in Spain this year. But if you're not at the conference and you use WordPress, you can watch that live on YouTube on the official WordPress channel. And Shifting gears a little, if you use Google Forms, there is a great new update that lets you limit who can respond to the form. So a problem is that you create a form in Google Forms, and then if you share the link, anyone with the link can fill out the form. This lets you limit access to the form to specific people. I think you can manage email addresses through Google Groups, and then you don't have to worry about people you don't want filling out the form. This is still rolling out, so it may not be available, but it should be available to personal Google accounts. It looks like it may be in beta right now. It says users with a personal Google account or Workspace individual subscribers can sign up for the beta using the form linked in this article. Again, check out this week's update list. There is a link to the post in the video description, or you can get it in your email inbox every week by subscribing to my newsletter. There's a link to do that in the video description as well. Whew, so that is a lot this week. I am tired just talking about it. The last thing I wanted to leave you with is this year's GIF of the year. This is from GIPHY's year-end roundup. And I think it really kind of sums up a good mood. This is the most popular GIF of 2023. Yay! Dance with the pig and elephant. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for joining me live. I hope you join me again next Sunday for more updates, and you have a fantastic week. Thanks again for joining me.